So I have something to mention here. A couple weeks ago, I don't know if it issued a challenge is the correct word, but I stated that in playing 6 Degrees of Jimmy Buffett, I am 4 degrees away from Jimmy Buffett. And I didn't know if we were going to find anyone closer, but I figured surely somebody at some point will have been to see Jimmy Buffett live, right? And maybe they'll be a degree closer, maybe 2, maybe they got an autograph from him, right? I was reminded that I do know somebody who has seen Jimmy Buffett live.
Damn.
And in fact, it's somebody who has been on this podcast before because, in fact, Jimmy Buffett was the surprise final live act at the Monterey Variety Show in 2019 where I was working a hot dog stand. So I've seen Jimmy Buffett live.
Okay,
and I forgot about that.
Closer.
Granted, he only... Okay, granted, I was cleaning up a hot dog tent at the end of the show, and I was like maybe 500 feet from Jimmy, so it was hard to see him on the stage. He only played Margaritaville. He only played one song. And the embarrassing thing that I forgot about this is that Jimmy Buffett came back and did a 4-song set 3 years later that I also saw. I was also witness to.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he played Margaritaville, he played Changes in Latitude, Changes in Attitude. I can't remember what the other 2 songs were, but if somebody finds this on YouTube, they may at some point between like the third and the last song.
And there's a non-zero chance that you make an appearance in that video.
There is a non-zero chance that you may hear a distant call between the third and the last song in the set of someone asking for him to play A Mile High in Denver, and that was me.
I feel like this is a sign for you to invest in a diary.
Oh my god.
Remember where you've been.
I had a lot of beer and wine that night because the hot dog tent is right next to the beer and wine tents. And we would always run out of hot dogs because I would always trade hot dogs for beer and wine.
Seems like a good trade.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I've seen Jimmy Buffett live twice. And I'll never see him again because he's dead. And I wouldn't want to.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again. And Margarita the bed. It's long damn fall.
Welcome, everybody, to Dischoreography, Wasting Away 2026. We are on Jimmy Buffett's 1979 album, Volcano. I'm Kyle.
I'm Tom. We have a guest with us this week.
We do have a guest. Our guest this week is our friend Talia.
Hello. Hello.
Talia, let's play 6 Degrees of Jimmy Buffett. How close are you to Jimmy Buffett?
Well, I was thinking at first, it's like I'm pretty far from Jimmy Buffett, and then I very strongly remembered that my grandmother was a very adventurous person, and
she fucked Jimmy, didn't she?
No.
No.
That's you can't just ask people if their grandmothers fucked Jimmy, Kyle.
That's usually the way that Talia stories go. Or like, my aunt thought she was in love with, or thought that Jimmy Buffett was in love with her, or something like that.
I can never, ever, ever tell my family I was on this. There's a non-zero chance that she has seen Jimmy Buffett in concert, or that she's found a distant cousin who happened to be somehow related to Jimmy Buffett. So I'm gonna go for a solid 4 to 5.
Okay.
We're gonna start by not talking about Jimmy because we get to do that at the start of this podcast.
It's the most wonderful segment in the entire podcast.
It's the best one. Talia, what have you been listening to that's not Jimmy recently?
I've been listening to a band called Smash Into Pieces.
Okay.
They're a 2008 Swedish rock band.
Damn it, it's always modern stuff. I'm always doing the old stuff. I thought I was being modern this week.
Hey, I've been busy, so I haven't gotten to listen to a lot of music, and it's really good music for just like getting really hyped up before you have to walk into a classroom of screaming children.
Also, 2008 was 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh god, don't remind me.
But I've been listening to their Arcadia album.
Oh my god, my modern album was from 28 years ago.
Damn.
Holy shit.
That's fun. Well, Kyle, it sounds like you've been listening to something this week. What have you been listening to?
I have been listening to an album from 1998, and I thought that was modern enough. Because I don't think I had mentioned the 1990s on this podcast yet. I was listening to Bruce Hornsby's Spirit Trail, which is a great double album. Bruce Hornsby, obviously he got big with his band The Range and The Way It Is in the 1980s. He ended up being a touring keyboardist as a replacement for Brent Midland in a couple years of Grateful Dead shows. And he says that was one of the major ways he improved his like improvisation on piano. And so he did like this great run of albums in the 90s, Harbor Lights in I think 93, Hot House in 95, and then Spirit Trail in 98, that were like part bluegrass, part jazz, part rock. It's great music. I love it. Yeah. I love Bruce Hornsby.
I've been listening to a couple of weeks ago, I believe I said on the pod that I was going to, after the recording was done, listen to Brat by Charlie XCX. I did not do that day, but I have done that now. I've listened to it before. I really like that album. It's very good. Just some really excellent hyperpop. Anyway, so this week, as we've established, we are talking about 1979's Volcano.
So you've got yourself a correction?
That's correct. I would like to issue a correction. Listeners, we have a correction to issue. I've made several incorrect statements over the course of this podcast regarding what the Big Eight are, which is relevant for this week because we are going to finish listening to all of them.
I looked that up and I grabbed the list too, finally. I was going to clarify that as well.
I've made several incorrect statements such as that boat drinks or... like boat drinks or he went to Paris. I think I also said grapefruit, juicy fruit. It's because these are all songs you know by heart, but they're not part of the Big Eight. We'll talk about that later. But that's just I know what the Big Eight is now. I was wrong earlier.
The album, I think we can conclusively say this is the album that sort of cements the direction Jimmy goes for the rest of his career.
Yeah, like tropical rock, very kitschy.
This is the tropics obsessed lunatic. Begins now.
we are here. Do you have a context write-up for this week, Kyle?
I do have some context.
I also have something to read before we start getting to the album, but let's get you go first.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about his touring. So he spent he did 64 shows in 78, so that's down from what he was doing touring in support of Changes in Latitude, Changes in Attitude. The tour was split into the You Had to Be There tour through April of 1979 or 1978. It's kind of weird to name your tour after the live album you just put out. That was recorded on the previous tour.
It's an interesting decision.
Yeah, he's in the You Had to Be There tour through April. He records this album, Volcano, in May, and then he's on the Volcano tour from June through the rest of the year. We didn't really discuss any contemporary reviews of the live album.
True.
I did go looking like in Billboard to see if there was any mention of it, and there wasn't that I could find. But Jerry Wood, who does the usual, who's been doing the Billboard write-ups of all of his albums since I think Changes in Latitude, he wrote at the beginning of the one for Volcano just a little bit about You Had to Be There, so I will mention that now. Jerry Wood begins this review of Volcano by saying, "It's been a long time between good albums by Buffett. His last LP was live and double, and it should have been neither." Yeah. So,
I mean, we weren't wild about You Had to Be There, but I don't think we hated it that much.
It's very incisive, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So Jimmy Buffett...
Live and double should have been neither.
Jimmy Buffett, he goes overseas to record this album in May. He goes to the newly opened AIR studios in Montserrat. And it's one of the first albums recorded at this new studio. A lot of major albums of the 1980s are going to be recorded here. Synchronicity by The Police, Too Low for Zero by Elton John, Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits, one of my favorites, and then Steel Wheels by the Rolling Stones, but who cares about the Rolling Stones? And that's one of the last albums that's recorded there before the studio was damaged in Hurricane Hugo in September of 1989. It wasn't like majorly damaged, but it was never reopened. And now I believe, spoiler alert for the song Volcano, But the Volcano did eventually blow in 1995. Superior Hills blew up. I think where AIR Studios in Montserrat was, I believe that is now in the exclusion zone around the like lava flows.
It's gone now. The
Yeah.
studio is no more.
And then just a little peek into the future, just because I saw this tidbit. In September of 1979, as he's touring in support of Volcano, he's going to make his live debut in Japan, his first time playing Asia.
So, for context this week, I have a very interesting article. Kyle, you may remember a couple of weeks ago when we were discussing the compilation album, The Very Best of Jimmy Buffett, that was released only in Australia. I mentioned this letter that the Rolling Stone had received that said, quote, "Take Chet Flippo out and shoot him for his trash on Jimmy Buffett."
Oh, do we know who Chet Flippo is now?
Well, we're going to talk about the article that Chet Flippo wrote that made that person so angry.
Oh, okay,
So,
all right.
Chet Flippo met with Jimmy sometime prior to Volcano releasing, but this article released in the October 4th, 1979 issue of Rolling Stone magazine, he caught up with Jimmy. Jimmy's actually on the cover of this particular album. I'm going to send, Kyle, you've seen this already, but he's on the cover of Rolling Stone.
He's on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Here's this
Dr.
picture
Hook
of Jimmy
reference.
from the cover of Rolling Stone.
It's not a good look for Jimmy.
It's not a good look.
That guy has definitely both drunk and high. To be fair, that's Jimmy's style. That's Jimmy's style.
We've had debates about how much of a joke "why don't we get drunk and screw" is. This is the guy who is saying that is not a joke.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
not Jimmy on the cover. That's Marvin Gardens.
That's Marvin. That's Marvin, baby. That's Marvin. But so this article is like really kind of interesting. It's got like a kind of gonzo like plot to it where it starts with, so I should say, it doesn't start where they actually meet. It starts in media res where they are in a bar together and some woman who Jimmy doesn't know shouts at him they should start eating pineapples to make his cum sweet.
Wow.
And so this article opens.
This is from 1979, right?
Correct, yeah.
Dude, there was some crazy shit going on in 1979 among musicians and their cum.
Yeah, I guess so.
This is the same year. Sorry to sidetrack us again, but this is the same year that Brian Wilson tells, I believe it's also Rolling Stone, he tells everyone that if you don't cum, the cum rises up through your spine, and when it hits your brain, you become enlightened.
That interview, I guess, did a lot of damage to modern society, to be honest.
Fuck. Isn't 1979 also the year that Buffett's daughter was born?
It is. She was born just before. We should mention that in context, actually. This album is released like 2 weeks after Jimmy's daughter, Savannah Jane Buffett, is born.
Yeah,
that's a pretty important bit of context.
I believe it's dedicated to...
It is. It's
Jane and Savannah, correct?
Yes, it is, in fact.
His wife and daughter, respectively.
But so this article, basically what happens is Chet, he contacts Jimmy and says, "Hey, I hear you're recording a new album in Montserrat, and we can talk about the album." And Jimmy says, "Fuck that. My boys and I need a break. Let's go to St. Bartholomew." He says, "Here's what you're going to do. You're going to fly into here and charter a boat out to St. Bart's. You're going to go into this bar and meet me there on this day at this time." And this guy's like, okay. At which point Chet Flippo reveals that he's been trying to interview Jimmy for several years, and both of his previous attempts, Jimmy's no-showed the interview.
I mean, Jimmy sounds in this. It sounds like Jimmy has quite the experience with drug dealing, because that's exactly what this sounds like.
But so this writer for Rolling Stone, he goes to this bar in St. Bart's in St. Bartholomew. He waits there for hours. Jimmy does not show up. He starts walking back to the port because he's like, I guess I'm gonna have to tell my editor Jimmy no-showed again. And he hears a bunch of drunk assholes shouting at him from a nearby house.
That's
and he looks up, and one of those drunk assholes is Jimmy.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's like, let's go out to the boat and listen to some tapes. And so they listen to some of the early masters for Volcano. And he has a bunch of questions like about Survive and stuff. And I think some of this, we're going to talk about these songs later, but I want to talk about this now to get an insight into some of his recording process. Survive, I say to him, is really a departure from previous Buffett songs, which tend to gather themselves into two distinct camps. Sensitive ballads or clever word plays. That pattern was set with his first ABC album, A White Sport Coat and Pink Crustacean, which is one of the unheralded sensations of 1979. 1973, alternating ballads like He Went to Paris with funny goofball songs like Why Don't We Get Drunk. I know what you mean, Buffett agrees. Hell, I sat down one day and listened to Billy Joel's 52nd Street. I like Billy Joel. I think he's a good writer.
I fucking knew it!
Hold on,
knew it.
Hold on, there's more to this.
Holy
I like Billy Joel. I think he's a good writer, but I just sat down and said to myself, well, goddamn, I can do one of those if I want to. This made me really get off my ass and look seriously at this whole project. So that's the way I made Volcano. I went back and listened to A White Sport Coat and A1A, which was probably my most popular album. And I just said, shit, I can write a Billy Joel song.
Dude, I was going to bring this up when we got to Survive, because last studio album, I was like, well, Fool Button is just a shit version of Big Shot.
Oh, yeah.
And like, Survive almost sounds exactly like Until the Night, which in and of itself is a pastiche of You've Lost That Love and Feeling by the Righteous Brothers.
Yeah, I've got a couple of other quotes from this album. This one I think is going to make you kind of mad. He says, quote, Volcano is a long way from Buffett's first album, the 324 copy selling Down to Earth, released in 1970. Another Barnaby album and series of records on ABC solidified his position in the early and mid-70s as the perfect composite of a rocking folkie. Wittier than John Prine or Steve Goodman, sunnier than Jerry Jeff Walker, and harder edged than the Wimps. They know who they are. Which I think is interesting. And then here's a section that I really like where they're talking about the title track Volcano. And he's talking about how it's not really reggae because they don't actually like Rastafarians in Montserrat. He says, the next day I had about 4 working titles for the album, but none of them really grabbed me. And I was wondering, what the fuck can I call this record? Then I looked out the window at the Volcano and I went, ding, I'm going to call the album Volcano. So I said, now we got to write a song called Volcano. I went to his studio and Keith was fooling around playing a little Caribbean shuffle. He said, they play everything in F down here. I said, well, hell, why not? I've never written a song in F, so we wrote it. And I said, well, hell, let's go get the guys from the bar. We need a whoop wop sound to make it authentic. I already written the chorus. I don't know where I'm going to go when the volcano blows. So we got to the whoop wop band to come in and play, and it was perfect. It just felt so goddamn natural.
So now we know that all Keith Sykes had to do with the song was introducing. And by the way, I'm going to say it when we get there. That's not a reggae beat. That's a Bo Diddley beat.
No. Jimmy very explicitly says, like, this is not reggaeton. Like, they don't really like reggae in Montserrat. It's like, it's something else. They talk about other stuff. A pretty, like, prevailing theme in this article is that Jimmy is, like, a very important and popular figure amongst American expats living in the Caribbean. They all have a professional interest in him. And also, like, a lot of them have, like, a personal interest in him.
Okay, but see, here's the thing. So what we've got enlightened here is exactly what Keith Sykes did to contribute to a song that you hate very much.
Yes.
So, is it possible you can forgive Keith Sykes for that blip because he didn't actually, like, write the lyrics or come up with the idea to do any of the shit in the song?
Pretty much the only part of the song that I think is even reasonably okay, which is the shuffle part of it.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I think Keith Sykes is fine. Keith, you're kind of off the shit list. You should have told Jimmy to stop doing this, though. But anyway, so the rest of the article is just like sort of going through this gonzo plot where Jimmy just drags this poor writer out to various bars and clubs on St. Bartholomew's, just like seemingly all night. And then when people start to get to like, people keep asking him to introduce them to Jimmy. And he's like, I'm not doing that. And then they leave and go somewhere else. The entire time Jimmy is in some sort of open air Jeep that he is apparently just rolling around at like 70 in. And they're drinking the whole time.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
He's just going. So he says a number of interesting things about like how being in the Caribbean is like, inspiring. But the last thing I want to talk about in this record or in this article is this story from Tom Corcoran. So Flippo asks Corcoran what the craziest thing Jimmy's ever done is. And Corcoran says it'd take days to think about it, right? He relays the story about Jimmy getting the shit beat out of him by Buford Pusser, of course.
Always comes back to Buford Pusser.
And then he says, quote, there's one thing, Corcoran continues, that he's never told the press. He became a hero in the Caribbean a couple of years ago when he saved 2 shipwrecked sailors. We were sailing from San Martin to Anguilla, where we spotted a bar. We decided to drop in for some Heinekens, but before we reached the island, a freak storm hit us. The temperature dropped 30 degrees and the winds hit gale force. We had run out of fuel and just had to ride it out. Finally, the storm passed and the wind just died, which never happens in the Caribbean. We were dead in the water. Then we spotted these 2 fishermen, the Vanderpool brothers, who'd been wrecked by the storm and were hysterical. Buffett got them on board and we calmed them down. Still no wind. Finally, Buffett said, God damn it, we'll go ashore and trade these 2 guys for some beers and some fuel. So he and Groovy, Buffett's captain, put on their bright yellow foul weather gear, grabbed a handheld VHF radio, rowed the dinghy ashore, and went into town. Buffett announced that he had the Vanderpools. The locals just freaked. They gave him some fuel and a lot of beers. We took the Vanderpools home, and the whole island turned out for a celebration. They paraded Buffett through town in the back of a pickup truck with everyone cheering. He's amazing. He turns the shipwreck into a party.
Wow.
So that's an insane story.
That is an insane story.
I do think Jimmy going, we're going to trade these two shipwrecked sailors for some beers. Is really...
Yeah, that's Jimmy.
But so it's
single story I hear about Jimmy Buffett, it just feels like those fucking Tumblr and everybody clapped.
Yeah, except Jimmy's just an insane guy. So
Except
a lot of
everybody fucking clapped.
Everyone clapped. He did literally save some people. Like, that is something. But also he was like, fuck these guys, let's get some beers.
Here's something we forgot to ask at the top of the podcast. Talia, how do you feel about Jimmy Buffett?
Oh, that's right. Do you have a history with Jimmy from before this?
All right. I hope you're ready to cut a large section here.
I
have
always do.
fucking feelings about Jimmy Buffett.
Okay.
For the longest time, anytime somebody would be like, oh yeah, they'd mention Jimmy Buffett, which shouldn't happen as often as it happens, because I gotta be honest, the majority of his music is the same fucking beat. His popular music is the same fucking beat and word soup shoved in with a little bit of a steel drum, and everybody goes, wow, that is the beach.
Talia, do you want to know something interesting? There's a little sneak peek for you listeners. This is the 13th album that we've done for this podcast, and it's the first one that has a steel drum on it.
Yeah, wow.
The thing that fucking gets me every single time with James Buffett is that there are so many ways to interpret his song. You know, you can listen to one and you can be like, all right, that was a cool, silly, fun song. Yippee. And then you put 5 minutes of thought in and you're like, okay, well, maybe this is some really deep, beautiful thing. And then you listen to it 3 more times and you're like, what the fuck is he saying? And so he fucking, every single time that I think of Jimmy Buffett, I think of my kooky fucking grandma. Rest in peace. It's everything about it. It's just, what are you doing with your life to come home? You come home, you've got your beautiful wife, you've got your kids and everything, and you decide, you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm gonna write Cheeseburger in Paradise, and then I'm going to make one of the most amazing like food chains, and then I'm going to continue to have shit music, and that's all they're going to play. I'm going to have people go into stores, get margaritas and cheeseburgers, and have to listen to fucking Jimmy Buffett the entire time. And it's food you want to savor because they hire the best cooks.
So we
have to listen.
When we had Matt on the podcast, since Matt works in a Margaritaville, we've actually had him start scoring songs of Jimmy Buffett's on a scale from 1 to 10, how often he hears it played when he's working at the Margaritaville. Would you like to take a guess at what the top one, the number 10 is on that scale?
I want to say Margaritaville because it's obvious, but I'm going to go for Cheeseburger in Paradise because I want to be
Margaritaville is a 5 on the scale, according to Matt.
All right.
Cheeseburger in Paradise is a 7. The only 10 we've been given is Pencil Thin Mustache.
Oh, fucking hate.
So, for this album, Boat Drinks is a 5, so as often as Margaritaville. Volcano is a 7, as often as Cheeseburger in Paradise.
That's a terrible shame.
Both of them are less than this hotel room, for some fucking reason.
I like this hotel room, but I don't know why. All right, we should probably... should we get into this album?
Yes, we should. So,
well, unless Talia, you have more of your rant about Jimmy that you want to go on right now.
Well, I went to a place. It was called Cheeseburger in Paradise. They said they had no association with Jimmy Buffett, but they only played Jimmy Buffett. And what made it even worse is that it was on Maui in Hawaii, and he's so heavily associated with Hawaii, and he didn't go until September of 1979, and then he didn't go that often.
Yeah. He's really more of a Caribbean dude.
Yeah.
Hawaii gets looped into because it's like...
It's exotica. It's exotica.
Yeah, it's exotica.
It all goes
it's like
back
tropical vacation pastiche that he starts
getting into. It all goes back to Martin Denny and Arthur Lyman, as we've talked about before.
It really does. I mean, I saw somebody talk about, at one point, listening to Jimmy with their feet up on a beach in Okinawa, and I'm like, that's not That's not where Jimmy was thinking about.
There is
Suicide?
something so militaristic about listening to Jimmy Buffett on Okinawa.
In Okinawa?
Yeah.
For real. That's
It's like you might as well just go to the top of the hill in Iwo Jima.
I have something to say, and this is sort of maybe been a turning point in my thinking, but we'll talk about it in a bit, because I've fallen down a theory hole for this album. But let's get on this record.
You want to hear some personnel?
We should talk about personnel. There's a lot of people on this album.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not going to list all of them because a lot of them are just one-offs, but I'll list the main Coral Reefers and the interesting ones. So the Coral Reefers, we got Barry Chance on guitar. He's been the lead guitarist since whatever tour You Had to Be There was on. You got the usual ones: Harry Daly on bass, Fingers on harmonica, Michael Utley on the keyboards. We have a couple of interesting, Deborah McCall on backing vocals. A couple of interesting changeouts. So Jay Spell is gone. He's replaced by Andy McMahon, who plays organ, and on the album he plays the Fender Rhodes electric piano, and I really like how the Fender Rhodes sounds on this album. It's always a treat for me to hear that. I almost want to give him a Secret Hero Award, but it feels wrong to give anyone a Secret Hero Award on an album that contains Volcano. And then the other big one is that in the Coral Reefer band, the drummer is Sammy Creason, who
they got Sammy back.
Yeah, we got Sammy back. He's been away for a number of albums because he was mostly just a studio musician. He never played with the Coral Reefers touring, but he's the touring drummer. And then he's not the album drummer, because the album drummer is session musician Russell Kunkel, who also plays percussion. Steve Foreman, studio guy, also plays percussion. And then they got this local guy down the Caribbean to contribute some steel drums. The man's name is Jackie Dangler, and that is not a pseudonym. There is a man out there whose name was actually Jackie Dangler.
Yeah,
and
this is
the best part is that his first name is Charles, so Jackie was his chosen nickname. So some other interesting ones. We have Johnny Montezuma, who I don't know anything about, might be a pseudonym, plays quote-unquote anything and everything on Fins. We have a guy named Donald Douglas, who plays the banjo uke on Volcano.
Yeah.
James Elmer, who plays the bass pipe on Volcano. It's possible those guys are part of that local band that Tom Corcoran was discussing.
I think it's very possible.
Yeah. And then we've got our usual couple of extra guys. Farrell Morris usually plays a lot of percussion. He's credited with playing the tambourine on Chanson pour les petits enfants. And Billy Pewitt, who was well known for doing the recorders on Margaritaville and whatever the hell album, African Friend? On
I think African
Son of a Sailor.
Yeah,
he's doing the recorders on Chanson as well. Norbert Putnam, our resident producer, bass on Sending the Old Man Home, and then the real one that like sort of fucked me up for a minute, James Taylor of all people, backing vocals throughout the album, and the guitar on Sending the Old Man Home. And,
James fucking Taylor.
Oh, there's a moment on this album where I was literally just like, whoa, what the fuck? James Taylor is here?
Yeah,
like,
literally.
I heard that. So congratulations to James Taylor for the last time anyone mentioned you was the very first episode of this podcast.
Did we talk about James Taylor on the first episode of this podcast?
Yeah, because I mentioned he looked like James Taylor on the back cover of Down to Earth.
Oh, he did, yeah. James Taylor's back on the pod.
Welcome back, James. Sweet baby James.
Sweet baby James. Fun fact about that song. My dad used to sing that to me when I was really little to go to sleep, to the point where I thought one of my names was James.
That's fucking funny.
Wow.
It's not.
All right. So, let's see. The album released August 1st, 1979. It hit number 14 on Billboard 200 albums. It had 3 singles released from it. The first was Fins, backed with Dreamsicle, which was released in September 1979. So again, there were no lead singles from the album. They all came out after the album was released. Number 35 on the Hot 100. Number 42, Adult Contemporary. Volcano, backed with Stranded on a Sandbar, was 66 on the Hot 100, 43 on Adult Contemporary. And then we have Survive, backed with Boat Drinks, at number 77 on the Hot 100. And then there is, I believe, a misprinted Fins Back with Dreamsicle label might be the cause for an apparent Dreamsicle Backed with Dreamsicle single that might have appeared somewhere that followed
It's kind of a
Fins.
nightmare situation, to be honest.
It has
that particular one.
Yeah, it has the same designation, MCA 41109, as the Fins single. So I assume it must be just a misprint on the label where it has Dreamsicle on both sides. But I assume if you played it, it would probably still be the vinyl itself would be Fins and Dreamsicle. When it released, Billboard first of all put Jimmy Buffett in their pop section. So again, we're moving further away from country for Jimmy. And it said in their short little introduction to it hitting the charts was best cuts was Try Them All, and I could not disagree with that more.
Big, like, that's the best cut from this album, is all of them.
It just says best cuts, try them all.
I just want to say, because now I have multiple levels of confirmation here. This has only deepened my beef with the Spotify app on the phone.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was going insane, because on the phone it says that it was released on January 1st of 1979.
Yeah, that's
and
not
so,
accurate.
on top of that, it also won't give me the lyrics for Stranded on a Sandbar, and almost every single I, as in like, I am Jimmy Buffett and I write terrible music, is lowercased. The I is always lowercased. This
That's
album
strange.
is just fucked. It's different for every other album. But this one, Spotify hates it.
Look,
I
if
guess
somebody
that's less of a beef,
told me
I
that
agree.
the making of this album was cursed by some sort of voodoo bullshit, I would not be surprised, because this album is cursed by some sort of voodoo bullshit. Do we have any more context, or should we get into the songs?
So this album opens with the song Fins.
Yeah. Look, I do just want to say, right? I don't hate this song as much as a lot of Jimmy's most enduring songs, okay? There's a couple of lines that are clunky. The metaphor sucks. The music, I think, is actually pretty good, the music.
I like this song musically. I have seen people refer to it as both feminist and wildly misogynist. And it's because it has the center of the song is a metaphor about the predatory nature of being an object of male sexual desire.
Yeah,
Like,
except it doesn't quite get there, I don't think, because it does something weird in the middle with one specific line.
yeah.
So also the legacy of this song is pretty big. We'll get into it. Buffett people, like, their secret greeting to each other is the phrase "fins up."
Fins up, and then they put their hand on top of their head like it's a shark fin.
Because so there's this like dance that Jimmy Buffett would have them do where they put their hands above their head like a fin, and then they move to the left and move to the right, in time with the chorus, right? I mean, I don't know if Buffett's making a joke or if he just forgot about the fact that the fins in the song are actual just like sexual predators, or whether he's just saying something about his fans. Who knows? I have a feeling that if it's the latter, most of them don't get it, and in fact, have a good friend of yours and mine, recurring character on this show, who definitely doesn't get it.
Yeah.
To talk about later. So this song, written by Jimmy Buffett and two members of the Coral Reefer Band, his guitarist Barry Chance, backing vocalist Deborah McCall, and then Tom Corcoran. Tom Corcoran, as we found out in the Havana Daydreaming album, I think, episode.
Yeah.
We talked about the fact we found out that he was the bartender at the Chart Room Bar, which is the first bar that Jimmy Buffett had a gig at in Key West when he got to Key West. And his last writing credit was on Cuban Crime of Passion from White Sport Coat and the Pink Crustacean.
Yeah, it sounds like he's been messing around with Jimmy in the Caribbean while they were recording this album.
I gotta say, because I have a very different perspective on it,
Yeah.
in case it's not obvious. I'm usually a woman. Who knows? On my first listen to, I was like, wow, this is a really good hook. It's really dancey. It's got that kind of stuff. It even gives, when it mentions like left and then right. And so you're like, ooh, you can move your arms and you're going. And then I opened up the lyrics panel and I went, oh, I have a bunch of different types of music in my head for when I would play music. If I'm on a road trip and I'm starting to get exhausted, I would play this song. I'd play this song to like amp myself up, like, all right, cool. It's got a catchy tune. I wouldn't listen to it. I'd focus on the driving.
Yeah, I would put this song in the top half of the Big Eight.
Yeah, so
but that's more of a condemnation of the Big Eight.
Let's talk about the metaphor here, right?
Yeah.
There is something very fraught with the idea that in the first chorus of the song, you're referring to the young woman of the bar as the only bait in town, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sharks don't go for bait. I mean, like, you can use it metaphorically as the bait for a predator, but there is one specific context in which anyone has ever used the term bait to refer to an actual woman, and it's the term jailbait, which is a common phrase by this time.
I don't think he's saying that this woman is like especially young.
I don't think that either. I just think it's an unfortunate phrasing to use because he's using that metaphor. Like, he wouldn't use, The other thing that I don't understand is in the, I think, the third verse, that now she feels like a remora. And it really feels like Jimmy Buffett doesn't know what a remora is, but he was told it was a fish and he tried to work it into a song. Because what a remora is a sucker fish that has a mutualistic relationship with the sharks because they feed off, they clean the bacteria off them. And that doesn't make sense with the entire rest of the song.
No, I guess it doesn't really, because like the rest of the song is this like kind of clunky metaphor about honestly like a predatory metaphor for the male sexual desire. And it's like, I don't think the remora line works for that.
Well, if there was a turnaround in the rest of the lyrics of that verse that essentially said she's figured out a way to get her own advantage off of these people while not really giving up much, sort of a thing, I would think of it as actually having more of a feminist tone. I think when people think it has a feminist tone, they're referring to that line specifically, and the only reason it would be is if the rest of that verse actually fed into that turnaround in the lyrics, but it doesn't. Because it just goes immediately back to being scared of the sharks.
Not to be the woman on a podcast with two guys, but there is also the part where it's like, but the money's good and the season helps to lighten up her load. Boys keep her high as the months go by. She's getting postcards from the road. So if she's got money, if she's got, that kind of stuff, and the attention's nice, he could be so self-centered in that one little moment that he thinks that the attention from a man is actually a benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely not a feminist line then, though.
Yeah, no,
it's kind of...
I can see how he might think that would be.
Yeah. And we know Jimmy Buffett isn't like... Jimmy Buffett doesn't tend to put effort into the idea of misogyny or anything. Jimmy Buffett's a relatively progressive guy with some misguided understanding of some views.
Yeah, he's really at
the forefront.
We saw he's a this little confused, with but he's got the spirit kind of guy, right?
We saw this with women going crazy on Caroline Street.
Yeah, or LSD,
Yeah, or I mean, we know Jimmy Buffett's an ally because he took a swipe at Anita Bryant on the last album, but
yeah, exactly. I want to talk a little bit about this. So I fell down a theory hole this week talking about what I've started to refer to as tasteless art, because I saw somebody refer to this album as really campy, and it drove me insane. There's a lot of notions when we talk about what taste is in art and sort of artistic qualities that reject taste as a notion, right? Artistic taste. And two of those qualities that reject taste are camp and kitsch. I don't think most of Jimmy's stuff that people refer to as campy. The next song on this album, Volcano, people call campy. I don't think that song's campy. Finn's, I think, kind of can be campy, and I think it's because it has a real metaphor it's trying to get to that it utterly fails at.
Yeah, because the point about camp is it's supposed to have, camp has satire in it, right? Satire is an element of camp.
Well, satire is an element of camp, but Sontag actually argued in her seminal essay, Notes on Camp, that pure camp is actually requires a certain level of naivete.
Yeah.
You're not trying to make something campy. And that's why I think Finn's sort of succeeds there, because it's kind of a mess. But the other thing is that The other thing that people refer to Jimmy's music as is kitschy. Now, kitsch is like an interesting thing. I haven't really come to like a conclusion on my theory hole on kitsch yet. You know, I've seen some people say that kitsch is inherently fascistic. I don't know that I 100% agree with that notion yet. But one thing about kitsch and kitschy art is that it's kind of inherently anti-intellectual.
Yes.
You can be intellectual about campy art, but kitschy art is like very explicitly like you don't have to think about kitschy art. It gives you like the emotional benefits of art that you have to really engage with without you having to really engage with it.
Yeah, it's the difference between like a Norman Rockwell or a Thomas Kincaid, right?
Yeah, precisely. Thomas Kincaid is actually how I got into this. I had been reintroduced to an article called Thomas Kincaid is the George W. Bush of Art, which was written before Bush became the George W. Bush of Art.
Please send me that.
It's pretty. It's very good. You know, it talks a lot about like how
you've
kitsch is
sold me on the
fascistic.
title. You have sold me just on the title.
It was actually printed like a week after he died, but so kitsch is inherently anti-intellectual, right? It doesn't want to be thought of. And this is like a thing about Jimmy's music is that like sometimes I think Jimmy's music is like most of it is not campy. A lot of it's kitschy. And we've talked about this before. A lot of Jimmy's music is not built to be thought of that much. It simply isn't, you know? And that's sort of how that happens. And I think that like when we're talking about art that like doesn't require you to engage with it in order to give you an emotional like reward, that makes me think about like larger context, right? About sort of the world that art is produced in, because that means that like something that is an effective piece of kitsch in one culture at one time is not going to be this effective in a different culture at a different time, right? And so that's kind of complicated. A lot of this album is very kitschy. Fins is, I think, the only song that kind of succeeds at being campy. And I don't think it's very campy.
Fins ends up becoming... The legacy of Fins is, of course, kitsch, though. Because Jimmy Buffett used it so much in his... Like, the name of his, like, beer that he did with Budweiser, Land Shark Lager.
No, the song's a big deal.
He sells Fins as merchandise.
I'm going to counter that, because typically when somebody is like, oh, that's kitsch, or oh, that's camp, it's typically that people look at it and they hate it. That they're like, this isn't great, this isn't cool. And it is in, like, it's in the top 3 of, or it's within the big 8. It is too well known to truly be kitsch.
I disagree with that notion. I think that a lot of people like a lot of kitschy things, right?
Yeah.
Like kitsch is not necessarily like when I say that like people are talking about something tastelessly, I do mean that like oftentimes like tastelessness is used to sort of as a value judgment, right? Like, oh, this is really tasteless. And undeniably, Jimmy makes a lot of tasteless music. I disagree with the notion that tasteless is synonymous with bad.
I mean, but before we really got to the kitsch, we had the idea of having, you know, Dirtbag Buffett having kind of like trashy music. Talia, would you prefer to like refer to this as trashy? Or like, I mean, how would you describe it if not campy or kitschy?
Gaudy.
Gaudy?
I think it's gaudy.
Gaudy.
I think it's full on gaudy, because I think that for something to be kitsch, it has to feel more tight. It has to feel more like, you have to feel a little bit like, ooh, actually, I kind of like that. And if you go and you like post on somewhere and you're like, oh yeah, I like Fins. Fins is cool. People are going to be like, oh yeah, you know, I've listened to the song. It's good. But if you're like, I like Fins, people are like, yeah, it's good. But like, why though?
See, gaudy
like,
for me...
It feels more oomph.
Gaudy for me, like, connotes like being like ostentatious, like being very grandiose about things that don't need to be given grandiose presence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, like, it feels like if his original intention was for it to be some sort of, like, pseudo-feminist thing, then he's trying to push it so hard that it's become tasteless, to try and be like, oh, you know, poor woman is lost and alone and, you know, surrounded by these sharks. Watch out. I'm here to tell you to watch out. It immediately becomes gaudy. But if he's looking at it just from a word soup point of view, I don't think it deserves any descriptor other than word soup.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, because from what I know, from what we've identified of all of this Jimmy Buffett that we've listened to so far, is that the impetus of this song, the inspiration for it, is definitely not like Jimmy Buffett saying, I want to write a proto-feminist anthem. Jimmy Buffett's not been doing... Jimmy Buffett gave up on doing message songs a long time ago, right? Because he realized he wasn't very good at it. What Jimmy Buffett did here was he might have seen this scene play out in a bar, and he's like, now it's time for me to do some character work, and then he doesn't introduce a single fucking character into the song, because Jimmy Buffett's kind of gotten lazy with his songwriting.
He fully abandons characters by this point, and it's so obnoxious because I actually really enjoy his character work. I enjoy when he goes into it.
Yeah,
and in
Jimmy
this one,
Buffett's
there's just nothing.
He's a very good character writer.
There is a level where Finn's is like a inferior version of Death Valley Lives off of High Cumberland Jubilee.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think it's just kind of like a messy song that sounds nice. And it ends up just becoming very important.
Yeah.
We should probably move on unless we have any other notes to talk about.
I mean, yes, we should, but also I kind of want to skip the next song, because the next song, of course, is Volcano, the title track, written by Jimmy, Keith Sykes, and bassist Harry Daly. And as of course we know what Keith Sykes' contribution is, I can only assume that Harry Daly probably contributed something regarding the bass part of the arrangement, and that the rest must be pure Jimmy, because it sure as shit sounds like what Jimmy's going to be writing for the next 40 years of his life.
So I guess the question with Volcano is, do any of us have anything interesting to say about it other than it sucks?
I listened to it, and I felt like I should turn the volume down in case somebody could hear it, because knowing that it was a Jimmy Buffett song, I was like, it felt like he was putting on a, like, mask and being like, I'm gonna make a silly jokey song. Look at me. I can sing about a volcano erupting, and look, I put on an accent and I sound so cool.
I think that's a big part of why people refer to this song as campy, right? A big part of, like, when you're doing camp intentionally is that it's very artificial and exaggerated. But again, I don't think the song is campy. I think it's just bad.
It's definitely taste, because
absolutely.
There's all of the percussion on it, the faux calypso beat, which is a Bo Diddley beat, the frankly racist accent that Jimmy's putting on, having the Caribbean folk in the background in the backing vocals, the piano break that unfortunately Michael Utley does, the whole "I don't want to live on" part of the song, the fact that the song ends on the line "I got nothing more to say." It's just lazy. It's not really even evocative of the Caribbean.
Also, for some reason, the song references Ayatollah Khomeini.
Yeah. I mean, the Iranian Revolution had just happened, so I guess it was on his mind.
He also mentions 3 Mile Island. I guess he's just thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
I was desperately trying to find some way that I could interpret this song to give it any sort of meaning. And I was thinking back, and I was like, okay, I gotta find something. And I'm like scrolling through articles, and I saw an interpretation that the song Volcano is about his interpretation of going to the afterlife. And I wanted to bash my head into a wall.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. Wrong. I think it's about a volcano.
I think this song is like the key piece in understanding Jimmy through the lens of kitsch, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, this is really, like, the key song of, like, if you think about this song at all, it's terrible.
Well, the song is not built on, like, and let's say Jimmy Buffett is not like a super great lyricist, right? But he is a singer-songwriter. And the lyrics have factored a lot into most of what Jimmy Buffett's done up to this point. The lyrics mean absolutely fucking nothing here. The entire point of the song is the instrumentation. The instrumentation sucks. The most interesting thing I have to say about this song, Tom, I know you've been struggling with having this song sort of stuck in your head.
Yes.
This song cannot get stuck in my head, because I'm a big fan of a different Bo Diddley beat, white calypso / reggae piece done in 1979. Is much better, called Rudy Can't Fail by The Clash. So every time I hear "I Don't Know Where I'm Gonna Go When the Volcano Blow," I'm thinking in my head, how you get so rude and reckless. So can't get stuck in my head. It always turns into The Clash.
I will say, last night this is not the song that kept me awake with it just going on my head on loop all night. That was Chanson pour les petits enfants. That was just stuck in my head for hours.
Oh god, yeah, that's the one that's been stuck in my head too.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't have anything else interesting to say about Volcano. I think it's a terrible song. No. And
Volcano erupted in 1995. That's the answer to Jimmy Buffett's song, and it was erupting until 2010.
Let's talk about "Treat Her Like a Lady."
Yeah, so Rapid switch.
This is
Rapid tone switch.
I mean, we've had some wild tone shifts between songs.
This album's very, like, it's really scattershot, to be honest.
Really 50-50. And so this was co-written by Dave Loggins, cousin of Kenny Loggins, and most famous for his 1974 minor hit, Please Come to Boston. I think that was an adult contemporary song. So he's running in the same circles as Jimmy, I think. Although he's got a bigger connection to LA through his cousin Kenny. So, I mean, the first note I wrote on this was, what the fuck is James Taylor doing on this song? Because I heard him come in, and he's like, oh my god, I didn't expect James Taylor.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a touring song. This is not the touring song on the album, but there's a bit of talk about touring. So we're getting back to that normal Jimmy Buffett structure where there's, you know, there used to always be like a song about touring, right? For a while.
I feel like if this song was the last song, or second to last song, if it was part of the closers, that would be fine. But putting it right here, the entire song just, it's mid.
Here's the thing. This song is very nautical, right? Because the whole thing is treating the sea like a lady. And,
it's a love song to the ocean, kind of. And it's
exactly. And that's Jimmy Buffett's, like, it's one of the Jimmy Buffett major themes up to this point. And I think when you put it back to back with Volcano, it sort of gets to another way of looking at what, like, the dividing line between Jimmy pre-changes to post-changes has been the shift from what I would say is Gulf Jimmy to Caribbean Jimmy, right?
Yeah, he's not really focused on, like,
this
he's definitely
song,
not focused in he doesn't live in Key West anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
This song is Gulf Jimmy, though. It's not Caribbean Jimmy.
I would agree.
And I think that's why I like this song. I do have to say, when like gets faster in the last like minute and a half of the song, I do kind of wish that was the music for the entire song, because it does actually fucking rip.
Yeah, it kind of feels to me like sometimes, like, there are other songs that Jimmy has about the ocean and like having a relationship with it that I think is better.
Definitely.
I kind of think, this is not quite A Pirate Looks at 40, but
no.
But it's just kind of like, sometimes I'm like, this song is kind of messy, but I also think it's, like, honestly not that bad.
I mean, I think it's one of the stronger songs of the album, just because it doesn't have any kitsch or campiness to it. Like,
yep.
You can tell because Jimmy writes a lot of honest songs about loving the ocean, right? You can tell a big part of this is from his honest feelings on the ocean and about sailing. And when he talks about, like, I'm in danger of extinction too, is like kind of a hard-hitting line.
Yeah, I think this is like a not terrible song. I do still think it's like, it kind of fits into like the something so feminine about a mandolin camp for me, where I'm like,
yes, that's what I thought too, where it has a really like sort of clunky core.
Yeah, there's like an emotional
to the lyrics. Yeah,
there's a lyrical aspect that I think is kind of a mess, but then also like the actual emotional core of the song is like pretty strong.
I'll say one more thing about the speed up in that last quarter of the song. We haven't heard dynamism in Jimmy's music much. I think the last time we heard it was Kicking in Second Wind, where there was actually like speed changes. I do like hearing that on Jimmy Buffett songs just because it's so rare.
I think if he could put a little bit of growl into his voice for it, it would like completely change it. It would actually kind of meld into the, like, it would mix up that kind of country, hippie, tropical vibe he wants.
Has Jimmy Buffett done a growl on a song before? We know he can't
really
belt.
Jimmy can't really put a lot of power into his voice. Something that becomes clear when you listen to a lot of his work is that, like, anytime that Jimmy tries to put power into his voice, the song kind of falls apart.
I think he could kind of growl, though, because there is some semblance of him doing it, like when he does God's Own Drunk.
Yeah, like very occasionally he'll do like individual lines with power behind them, and it kind of works. I could see that working on this.
Yeah,
but
broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, kind of. But also just like sometimes like there is something powerful about hearing a singer like reach the outer limits of what their voice can hit. Like that can be strong musically. Jimmy does not usually use it strong, right? Usually uses it for like Cheeseburger in Paradise, which is he sings like absolute shit on that song.
Yeah.
And on a couple of things, there's a couple of lines on this very album in which I think he sounds like bad.
Should we move on to Stranded on a Sandbar?
I was going to say one of the lines that Jimmy sings on this song that I think sounds bad is the very first line of this song.
Yeah.
Can I just say, like, the first thing I noted is, like, I feel wrong about liking this song
Yeah,
because there's
the other
so
thing I
many
have-
elements to it that are good. And then I think lyrically this song falls apart in, again, the last verse.
Yeah, I think that like
Jimmy Buffett should really
Like-
stick to writing 2 verses per song.
there's a lot of disparate elements of this song that I think are not very good, and I think the first line, subsequently the last line, like he sounds bad. I think this might be my favorite song on the album.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So I did notice, like the you get a bit of Jimmy wisdom, right? With the I
little
enjoy
bit,
this
yeah.
life as a jester seems to keep me moving around. I think it is worse than it cleans me up, but helps me move on.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is essentially framing the song and being used in the same sort of way as a device to move the song forward as that line in Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season.
Yeah, this feels like a song where Jimmy is like kind of honestly reckoning with the fact that he's become very stagnant
Yeah.
as an
That
artist.
being said, I hate the climb to the top of the island night, sit beneath this cashew tree for
Yeah,
multiple
Yeah.
reasons. Like musically, I don't like that. And then, the backing vocals coming in and everything. I don't like the Caribbean imagery being evoked where it wasn't really evoked anywhere else in the song. It was just nautical stuff. But also, if he's on a sandbar, he can't climb to the top of the island. It's a sandbar.
yeah. I think this song is like maybe my favorite on the album. There's like one or two others that I think might be. I think it's kind of just a big mess.
Yeah.
In terms of music about stagnation from the 1970s, I would call this secondary to King Crimson's Starless, which has like a 3-minute guitar solo by Robert Fripp where he's playing one note. And I think that evokes that much more effectively than this does.
That sounds poetic.
It's great. That's my favorite King Crimson song.
I feel
But
like the backing vocals come in too late for me to enjoy it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, I feel
can
like
see that.
once I hear that the backing vocals come in, I re-listen to the song and I'm like, that could have added so much more to the intro if they were there. Like, even just doing a small harmony in the beginning, something to tie it together. It feels like an attempt to do a, like, changing it up, switching the song just in the middle, just for fun, but it's too short. Make it 7 minutes and have it be 5 different songs all in one, or make it be
Yeah.
one song.
We've heard Jimmy do some progressive stuff that was like dynamic, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's really obnoxious, I think.
Do we have anything else to say about this? Because if not, I have
we
a
should
hot
probably move
take.
Oh, God.
about Chanson pour le petit enfant.
I think this is the worst song on the album. I think this is worse than Volcano.
I think that's insane.
I think I would love a formal written apology from both of you for making me listen to this song.
Really? I think this is
Dog.
one of like the 4 best songs on the album.
You think this is a good song?
Yeah, I kind of like it.
Kidding
Oh my
me?
god, this podcast may be getting divorced at this episode.
I don't think- I don't
We're
think-
having 2 separate podcasts, 45 minutes each now. Everyone can go to respective channels.
I don't want to do that. I don't think the song's like that good.
Dude,
I think that on any other album, it would be like the worst song on it.
So,
I don't think
look,
it's the worst song on this album by a long shot.
let me explain it. So this is the first. What is going to be a continuing theme? I know there's at least one more song. What I'm going to call whimsical Jimsicles.
Yeah.
Now, what makes a whimsical Jimsicle? A whimsical Jimsicle is a song that incorporates fantastical themes into the usual nautical and tropical tropes of the normal Jimmy Buffett song. Lyrically,
Okay.
the song continues to world build without any sort of payoff and simply exists as another vehicle of evoking idyllic tropical vignettes, whether it makes sense or not, i.e., there is no grounding to the song. The less real sense a tropical vignette makes, the more likely it is to be a whimsical Jimsicle. Thus, a song
Okay.
like Cheeseburger in Paradise, while equally inane and abysmal in both concept and execution, is not a whimsical Jimsicle, as it does take place in a realistic scenario, i.e., like being on a boat and coming into port. Though the details of that scenario are absurd, and I would point to, whatever the fuck he's thinking about that cheeseburger. And it appears that Chanson is the first true whimsical Jimsicle of his career, and I hate it immensely. I do think I actually hate it more than Volcano, and it's simply because, and I mentioned this, because Volcano can't get stuck in my head, but this one can.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
I specifically dislike this song because the way that, if you're trying to emulate, I'm gonna speak French and I'm gonna do it in this song, and I'm typically very islander.
Oh, Jimmy
At
does that a lot.
least-
He does a lot of French songs.
He does French very.
At least fucking bother to pronounce it at minimum in Louisiana French. This is clearly just a guy, like, if you put this next to a guy who went on Duolingo for 20 minutes, I would not be surprised if they sounded the exact same.
Are you a pretty good French speaker?
Not anymore.
Oh.
Not anymore.
Did you take French?
Bitch, I went to Paris.
That doesn't answer my question.
And my fiance studied French for a little while.
That also doesn't answer my question. Did you take French?
No! But
Okay.
I have experienced French from multiple different cultures.
All right.
And ultimately, the way that he speaks it is some asshole got Duolingo on his phone and he went, all right, let's do this. It's like that fucking, God, what's his name? Justin Bieber song where he memorized how the words sounded in Spanish, recorded them, and then doesn't perform it in concert because he can't do it. It just felt so empty the way he said it, and it felt like he was shoving it into something to be like, it's more whimsical because you don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess so. Je ne parle pas français myself, but it's I speak a very little bit. I'm not good at French. I do feel like I've put myself in a position to defend this song, and defending it is not something I actually want to do because I think I just hate the album, right?
Yeah.
Like when I say I think this is one of the fourth best songs on the album, it's because I like 2 songs on the B-side, like total.
Yeah.
Supported point there because you do a little bit of French there, and you even had a little bit of energy to it.
A little bit, but I guess the only thing I can say is that like I do have a minor affinity for like there was a lot of like music written by like 60s folk singers that kind of was like there's a small dog whining in the background, sorry. There's a lot of music that like I feel like 60s folk singers wrote that was like this, and I do have an affinity for some of that, right? That was
I mean, this reminds me
music for children.
Yeah, because like Donovan did that with like Barabajagal. I don't remember how to pronounce the name of that album. Kenny Loggins does some of that, although he has the good sense to put it on just an album on its own instead of mixing it up. I hate. So I have to say, I think the point of this, right? This is definitely meant to be like a kooky, like children's fable fairy tale song, right? Buffett probably wrote it for his soon-to-be born child, right? Savannah.
Probably.
Jimmy Buffett, dude, he's going to do this for all of his kids. He's going to put songs for his kids on the albums going forward when they're kids. And I really hate it when artists are like, how do we close out this album? This album is meant for all of my fans and adult people. And so we're going to do a children's song I wrote for my 2-year-old child. And I'm going to dedicate the song to, Gabby Goo Goo, my daughter. Or something. That's right. I'm mentioning Bob Dylan this time, and it's not in a positive light. Fuck you for Under the Red Sky, Bob.
There's also the big problem of how he pronounces the word raccoon.
Yeah, I think that's considered.
No, dude.
He does
pronounce
stuff
the letters.
Okay.
You didn't hear him say Chicago on a previous song.
You haven't maybe you haven't caught that he pronounces the word suave as swave.
Would it be so hard for him to have gotten a vocal coach? Seriously, genuinely. Somebody to say, press on your diaphragm, stand up straight, pronounce all of the letters in the word if they need to.
The last thing I have to say about the song is I think it's an insane song to be on the same album as Boat, Drinks, and Fins.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
All right.
Okay. It's time to flip the M. We'll see you guys all on side B. We start off side 2 with what I would consider to be, I think, my favorite song on the album, Survive.
Yeah.
For me, it's the strongest song on the album. It's another touring song. Typically, I don't really like the touring songs, but I do kind of like the desperation about it. And he's taking a lot of influence from, like, Coast of Marseille in the last line in writing this song, I think. I can see that in it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing it as well as Keith Sykes, but I do think it's better than anything else on this album. And again, there's a really great Fender Rhodes on this.
Yeah, I don't hate this song. I think my main problem with it is that like so much of it rests on Jimmy's voice.
And
Yeah.
I feel like he can't really carry it that well. But at the same time, I kind of feel like there's an emotional core to it that is like being carried by like how his voice can't really reach what the song is.
I mean, I did note that, like, it's a very emotional song, and it would be an easy one for Jimmy to want to. And again, this is where I had mentioned that I think this is definitely in the same vein as Billy Joel's Until the Night, where you want to belt that chorus to, like, really get the emotion out. And Jimmy doesn't do that, and good for Jimmy, because he knows he fucking can't on this song. Because it would be bad if he tried.
Yeah, his voice just can't belt that well.
I think I'm looking at it from a very different point of view, where I'm looking at it and, like, if I'm just listening to the song as a song, this is great music to put on while you're cooking and while you're, like, doing something that is taking all of your attention. It's idle background music, but when you're actually looking at the lyrics, I'm just, again, mentioning my little weird section of the online circles. It generally would be great for, like, really dramatic poetry. Like, if one of my people that I follow for poetry on Tumblr or on AO3 or something was like, hey, I've posted this poetry about, like, people who are in love but can't be together, I'd be like, wow, what a great job. And then he starts singing it, and I'm like, ooh, when I think about it as him singing it, when I think about it as a song, phenomenal. So I was rating all of these on a scale of 1 to 10, and I generally was rating all of the songs as I was going through and listening to your podcast, the earlier episodes. I'd listen to the song, listen to you guys talk about it, and I would rate it in my head, change the rating after I had genuinely thought about it alongside your guys' conversation. And I genuinely feel for the first time, I rated that, I put a 9. I said this is a 9, and I think the lowest I could possibly go on it is a 7. And that would be if you guys managed to whip out some crazy thing like this was written about a kid or something.
No.
It genuinely has a lot that it can give and a lot that it can bring.
I mean,
if you think about it as a tool.
I think it's fine. I think it is probably the best song on the B-side.
I'm going to counter you so hard later.
So, shall we move on to Lady I Can't Explain? I mean, this is, I think it's Jimmy extending the treat her like a lady metaphor, and it's again about the sea.
Okay, I did not see it like that. I just kind of thought it was like
it might
very
not
fun, like nothing love song.
But I really didn't have much to say about it. I thought this is a good contender for an AHAG.
No, it's this one, or there's another song later on that I feel like is a strong contender for AHAG.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to say about Lady I Can't Explain.
Music's a little funky. I don't mind it. Again, it's that Fender Rhodes. Andy McMahon's doing pretty good stuff on this album, I think.
It's not too bad.
At the very least.
It's a reach. It's a far reach. But I'd like to consider it as a thought experiment. Feel free to cut this. I mean, I was listening to it, and I was thinking about, from what I read about his biography and all of this kind of stuff, and I was like, you know, if this was a little earlier, if this was maybe 2 albums earlier, I could 100% believe he wrote this about, like, Mother Mary. And then I distinctly remembered he's Christian, not Catholic, and I was like, well, fuck. That's
no, he is
nothing.
Catholic.
He was raised Catholic. He's also very much not religious.
Yes, of course, but he has odd religious themes. Fuck, how did I mix those two up? Either way, but I was thinking about it, and I was like...
You were thinking about the song in, like, the lens of, like, Christian rock about, like, Virgin Mary? Like...
In Catholic rock about specifically...
Yeah, because Catholics venerate Mary more than the other denominations of Christianity.
It's like when you pray to Mary specifically, she will not let you forget your sins, but you still will be forgiven. That kind of thing. And I was like, if I look at this through my childhood Catholicism lens... This could be about Mother Mary.
Is it supposed to be that if you like do confession to God, you forget your sins? Because I remember every single one of my sins, and there are a lot.
I was raised Episcopalian. I don't know anything about this stuff.
But specifically the put no one else above you, that kind of stuff. It was just all of it. It felt like it could definitely be one of those kinds of situations.
You know, I gotta say, Talia, you started saying this and I was like, that's really out there. And now I'm like, I don't think that's right, but I can kind of see it.
It's definitely not the intention.
Jimmy is not at this point. Like, that's some, like, deep subconscious religious trauma, if that's what's happening here. Because Jimmy is not...
That is surprisingly. Catholics are very good at having deep subconscious religious trauma. Trust me.
Oh,
could see
yeah,
it. I
no,
would know.
it's definitely true that Jimmy could be having some major Catholic guilt here, like with the
But also-
upcoming birth of his daughter. I totally see that, actually.
And with
I
all
see
of
that.
his
I could also,
drug
like-
use, and he literally has been focusing.
No,
a
not
lot
with the
on
drug
women.
use. Not yet.
No, I don't
Not
think- I
until
don't
he's
think-
Yeah, but, like,
separated.
I
All
kind
of
of
his
feel like
focuses on women and that kind of thing. It definitely could be, and he's having a daughter specifically.
I could see like maybe he has like a complicated relationship. I kind of doubt like Jimmy is so unreligious at this point that I would be kind of surprised if I learned that his children were baptized. You know,
100%.
and that's like maybe like that could be coming up if like he and Jane had decided not to baptize their daughter. I could see that starting to make that stuff come up. That said, if Jimmy was, I feel like Jimmy is the kind of guy where if he was going to write a religious trauma album, we would be able to tell from more than just one song.
I mean, yeah. Even though I wouldn't use his not current, but when he's writing this, I wouldn't use his disconnect from religion at that point as any sort of basis, because I myself was separated from the church for a very long time, and then I went through a major life-changing event, and I found myself like waking up and saying Our Father, and I was like, I have not said that. I haven't gone to church in 10 years, and still, if I'm like fucked up, I might accidentally just fly into a prayer. It's like those kinds of things are like ingrained, and they're deeply embedded into the psyche. I could see him thinking, oh, I'm writing about love, I'm writing about this, and it carrying just a different way. But I also love the idea that he's in love with some kind of woman who he cannot explain.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, see, here's the thing.
50-foot tall, unimaginable woman who's...
There's a very common recurring theme where Jane is an incredibly smart, well-spoken person, and Jimmy is a drunk moron.
So most straight relationships, yes, I'm aware.
Yeah, and Jimmy's aware of that. He wrote about it in multiple songs, cliches.
Jimmy does
This
kind of
song,
revel
yeah.
in being a drunk moron.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. This is about the time that like contemporary Christian music, like CCM, is getting off the ground in the late 70s.
Jimmy does not seem like the kind of guy to try to play the charts by getting into the Christian music scene.
No, that was Bob Dylan,
No.
actually. Same year.
I don't think he
Slippery
tries to do
Comment.
anything. I think everything he does is an accident, and it either works out for him or people kindly forget it.
Hadley Hawkinsmith does not play lead guitar on this, so it's not a contemporary Christian music song of the period, and that is a joke neither of you will get, and definitely nobody who listens to this podcast.
I have a Are we done talking about Lady I Can't Explain?
Yeah, let's move on to boat drinks.
Folks,
Margarita time, y'all.
this is not a drill. Shelter in place. Everybody, lock your doors. This is not a drill. This song opens with a steel drum.
Dude, I wish
Yeah.
I wish, honestly, I could rewind time. Like, I don't regret many things in life, but I do regret listening to this album all the way through, because I do wish I could rewind 1 week and just go back to the time where I, for some reason, forgot that this song started off with a steel drum, which is insane because, I had to listen to it quite a bit to make the boat drinks. But that was
I love
pulling
it.
the vocals out mostly. So.
I love it. You hear that little guitar, and then, and it's immediately
Yeah, so I gotta
feels
say,
buff.
I gotta ask you, Tom, does the song sound weird without Jimmy constantly asking the waitress for 30 boat drinks?
A little bit, yeah. I'm really used to how it sounds in the Sting.
Yeah.
But also, there was a long time where, like, my primary relationship to Jimmy was, like, through the compilation album, probably his actual most important album, which is Songs You Know by Heart.
Yeah, that
We'll
was
get
the
to
same
it
thing
eventually,
with me.
folks. And there was a long time where Boat Drinks was one of my favorite tracks on that album, and then it wasn't anymore. And then it started to become one that I like a little more again. And I've started to notice, I think, I've mentioned before, there are certain things that evoke warmth that hit me during the times of my life when I have not been living in California. And I realized I like this song when I live in Washington.
Yeah.
I
I
think
can
makes
see
sense.
that because the song is set far away from the tropics,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned that like back in December we were listening to
White Sport
I don't
Film.
remember. white sport coat.
I was
and
telling
there
you
was,
that
wind chill down below like 30 degrees, and I was freezing.
Yeah, I was
And
telling you that I took a walk while listening to that album, and when Grapefruit Juicy Fruit came on, I just felt warm.
Boat Drinks, I think, is the same way, where when it's cold outside, Boat Drinks really hits me. It's been uncharacteristically warm for February this week, so I didn't really like listening to it that much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's something about this song that I do actually like quite a lot.
Yeah, let's see. So Jimmy, he mentioned Star Trek again.
Oh yeah, Star Trek.
Still Star Trek
Star
nerd.
Trek reference.
Not the second one. It's like the third or fourth at this point.
Is it?
I should be listing these in the same way I do Boat Drinks, where I should be tracking this. But he's mentioned a lot of nerdy shit. I mean, I've really been all putting it into like one nerd category, going all the way back to Captain America. I don't like the combination of those phaser synth sounds with the steel drums in that part of the song. It sounds
it's
very
a little silly,
weird.
yeah.
There is one major part of this song, legacy-wise, which is the phrase "Saint Somewhere." Comes up a
Saint
lot.
Somewhere. Flying to Saint Somewhere is a regular theme in Jimmy's music.
And so I think between like Fins and Volcano and Boat Drinks, like it sort of cements Volcano as like the most important album for Jimmy's legacy, because he's going to draw so many themes from all of those songs and more, like musically and lyrically and content-wise and just vibes-wise for the rest of his career.
There's really only 3 albums that have a serious claim to being like the most important album in Jimmy's oeuvre, and it's Changes in Latitudes, Volcano, and Songs You Know by Heart.
Yeah.
And Songs You Know by Heart is a compilation album. I really think that's a really reasonable argument.
Yeah, and on Songs You Know by Heart, Volcano has the most representation. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Volcano and White Sport Coat have the most representation on that album, with 3 songs each.
Yeah, and there's no songs from Havana Daydreamin'.
No songs from Havana Daydreaming. There's only 2 songs from Changes in Latitude that end up in the Big 8. But Changes in Latitude and Volcano are the only 2 that have 2 songs in the Big 8.
Yeah, it's
Fins and Volcano.
I gotta say, on Boat Drinks, in general, it cements the idea that I've had for a very long time that you have to, if you're going to try to look at Jimmy Buffett and you're going to try to look at his music, you have to look at it through the eyes of not just a parrot head, but of a researcher. Because on my first listen to, I was like, yeah, it's Boat Drinks. Everybody knows Boat Drinks. It's like, I don't know, it's like a 6, whatever. Cool. It's a song about him yearning, whatever. You have one drink, and immediately you're just already on it. You're already on it. You're like, yeah, you know what? I like the weird sappy sounds because they're funky. And you're moving, and you're like unironically shifting back and forth because of the beat, and it just gets you. It sneaks up on you and goes, ha.
I kind of think Boat Drinks might be the secret camp hit of this album, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mess, but it just kind of ends up working anyway.
Yeah, I mean, out of the 3 big songs to come out of this album, this is the least egregious.
Yeah, definitely. This is like more enjoyable than Fins, and just
like
straight up better than Volcano.
Ultimately, the one thing I don't like is the introduction of Saint Somewhere, and that's, again, mostly because of the legacy it leaves, which I think it gets sort of unfairly in the same way that Margaritaville gets its legacy unfairly, but at the same time, the legacy is cemented by Jimmy himself in this fashion, because I find the phrase Saint Summer to just be this like lazy evocation of the tropics, and where like the content of lyrics don't matter, but what matters is the vibe elicited only. You know, that's such a small part of the song.
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, I've stayed for quite some time in, I was staying in Hawaii for a really long time, and the whole I shot 6 holes in my freezer, I think I got cabin fever. You're gonna be in more of a cabin when you're staying somewhere that is affordable and nice in a tropic location. Dog, you're just bored, and you decided to... I don't know. Those 2 lines just felt really just like, all right, you needed some word soup and you stuck your ladle in and you got bullshit and you said, the rest of it's good. And you were right, but that doesn't excuse the action.
I disagree. I have been snowed in before, and this song, those 2 lines on this song were like, this guy fucking gets me. I'm gonna take a gun and shoot my freezer. I need to get away from the cold.
Why would you shoot your freezer, though?
Listen, like, it really is
It's cold. It's just like, this sucks. I know. I get it. I like those are my favorite two lines of the song, honestly.
I think honestly that I very much enjoy hearing your perspective of it, because now I'm feeling like I feel like it really is a benefit that he's writing this, and looking at the photo of him in that Rolling Stone article, it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I need a little more life experience to fully 100% grasp everything he's saying, to 100% be able to feel it. Like you guys were talking about in the last episode you posted with you need to look back on it later.
A Pirate Looks at 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like this song. I don't think it's the best song on the album by a long shot. It's definitely the best of like the three popular songs on this album. It's kind of annoying. I like it.
I think I would probably put this. I would put this above Finn's. So
Definitely.
I think this is in the top half of the album for me.
If this was actually if this was one of the big eight, I would put it above Margaritaville and below Come Monday.
Yeah,
I could see that. I think it definitely is a good precursor to the best song on the album, which it is, and I 100% agree. That would be a good placement on the big eight.
Hold on.
Okay.
Slow
you
down.
said something there, and it's also You said something there, and it's also 5:25, which means Tom needs to go pick up Eliza. So,
I do, yeah. We're gonna have a cliffhanger.
We're gonna have to hold this thought. We left off on a cliffhanger.
We did.
Talia, you intimated that Dreamsicle is a very, very good song for you.
Yeah, Dreamsicle has a tone to it that I would consider a flat line. It doesn't really move the album up or down. It only lasts for 2 minutes and 19 seconds, which is, if I'm correct, the shortest song of the 10 on the album. It takes up the least of your time. It really doesn't move the album at all. And my only motivation for thinking this is one of the greatest songs I've ever listened to is a line. It comes in at approximately 1 minute and 10 seconds in. A little over. Or no, exactly halfway.
Okay.
And I just gotta say, I heard the line and I had to rewind. And I cannot listen to this song without rewinding that little section just a few times.
Okay, what's the line?
Dreamsicle. Big dill pickle. No other context.
It's a classic Jimmy Buffett.
Context.
It's a classic Jimmy Buffett line.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, all of the reasons that you just listed for the reason that you think this is the best song in the album are all of the reasons that me and Tom would list why this would get the AHAG award.
Yeah, I am in firm agreement.
I believe this does deserve the AHAG award.
I do think I'm going to remember it always now for the hour and 45 minutes now that I've spent being like, what could possibly be the reason that Dreamsicle is someone's favorite? Yeah, I don't have anything at all to say about Dreamsicle. It inspires no reaction from me at all.
Frankly, I just it might be another children's song. It might not. I do remember the line, Miss Piggy dance with me.
Yeah, that's it's that and the pickle line are the only two that even remotely stick out. And I'm going to forget about them once we stop having to listen to this album.
Yeah. When I listened to the song the first time, I do remember that the first time I listened to the song, it's like, well, the music is kind of like mellow for some of the rest of this album. It's a little different. And then it ended, and then I couldn't remember the music, and I was like, well, I guess it wasn't special. AHAG award it is. So, well, let's move on to the final track on the album, Sending the Old Man Home.
Really quickly, just a quick little nod. I have been up since 5 a.m. and I have been working since technically 8. Until exactly 3. I then was able to finish up a meeting, get home, immediately hop onto this podcast.
I'm so sorry.
And my fiance came over and put a margarita and a beer down next to me, and then promptly fucked off. Sometimes you need a song that sounds like the aftermath of what happens when somebody takes LSD, not the drug, the song, to heart, and just whatever comes out of their mouth is just pure dumb. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. I made all of my final decisions today sitting in a room on what was supposed to be my lunch break with my headphones on, 2 kids screaming at each other about Uno, and Jimmy Buffett laying in my headphones.
We've been putting you through the ringer here, I would say.
Yeah, this was a particularly rough album, I think.
If I can
Welcome to
clarify,
Jeff
it's now
Buff.
7 p.m. I have been over 12 hours today. I have been doing work, and Jimmy Buffett has been behind in my headphones for all of it. Half a day of Buff.
Yeah, I mean,
Of James William Buffett.
you're
Listen,
preaching to the choir here.
Welcome to us every week.
I am ready to die.
Let's put this album to bed, huh? Let's send the old man home.
Sending the old man home.
Send the old man home.
I don't mind this song, actually. I think it's like a worse He Went to Paris, but also not really.
Yeah, I mean,
there's some character work in here that's almost like akin to, I think, Ace.
There's it's kind of another like one of these like songs that are just kind of like songs for old sailors, and like I like it when Jimmy does
this. That's what it is. It's like the audience, it's like those older Gulf Jimmy songs where the audience is supposed to be those like old shrimpers in the old bars and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think this is one of the better ones, but I think that it's not bad.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the better songs on the album.
I think it's in the same vein as I had mentioned for This Hotel Room, because it's such a different vein than the rest of the album. I count it as a weird Buffett closer.
It is kind of weird. Also, James Taylor's on the guitar on this song.
Yes, and on the vocals. I do have to say the imagery of the line "They'll mothball the whole damn fleet" is like, I really do like that line. I find it funny.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe this is because I love dive bars, but I feel like this is one of those songs that somebody would put on in a dive bar, and all of the people that are still there that showed up at 4 p.m. will be like, ha, 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 ha. And it's like, it's 11, maybe later than that. And all of the people who are like, yeah, all right, I should probably get home, or my grandkids are going to be mad at me tomorrow. Like that kind of energy. It's the kind of music that when you stand up after listening to it, you expect some of the duct tape holding the bar stool together to stick to your pants.
Yeah, like a lot of Jimmy's music from like not so much this era anymore, but like from older eras was mostly like, practiced and refined in like bars in Key West with old, like I was saying with like old shrimpers. And this feels like one of those songs. I wonder if it's not a cut off of one of those earlier records.
I would be interested to know whether it is an older song he decided to record later on, or whether he was just in that vein at the time. I will say, I think, and this is unique since probably Tin Cup Chalice, where I think here's a closer song that Jimmy chose to close the album that like really works as a closer.
Yeah, this is a fine closer.
Yeah, because so like, African Friend, it's not really a closer.
It's not great.
Landfall is okay, but it's not a closer.
I don't personally like using rockers as closers.
No. This Hotel Room, it's not a closer.
It's a good song. It's not a closer.
It's a good song, not a closer. And of course, the issue with the issue with A1A is that it has two really good closers on it, and only one of them can be a closer.
Yeah, it's true.
But Tin Cup Chalice or Pirate Looks at 40, both of them excellent songs. Tin Cup Chalice, totally fine closer. In fact, an amazing closer. This is the first closer since Tin Cup Chalice that is genuinely like a good album closing, neat little bow on the package sort of a thing. Although the contents,
built for the purpose,
the contents of this album, I think, are lesser than A1A. We can agree, but
yeah, definitely.
Talia, what did you think about the song?
After listening to it, my very first thought about it was like, all right, this is kind of like, it's like a good, somewhat memorial, but it feels kind of plain. And then I listened to it again, and while I was listening to it, I didn't have anything else to do, so I just looked at the album while it was going. And it really adds a different kind of effect onto the album in its entirety. I mean, Dreamsicle, when I was listening to that, I was immediately thinking of like his references to the wild kind of, sorry, it just started playing off of my computer as loud as possible in my ears, and I was just jump scared. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, it kind of reminded me of Down to Earth, that first album, and I was like, wow, that kind of calling back to that weird, odd references that don't really stand out, and you could see that a little bit in Sending the Old Man Home. And if you just look through the whole thing, it felt like a reflection almost, and then putting it into the context of his daughter was about to be born. You know, he's starting to kind of kick off way more than he was before. It makes the whole album feel less like a mishmash and more like an amalgamation of everything that he wanted. I can imagine that each one of these songs was written and he was like, well, I need somewhere to put it. And so he just shoved it into Volcano and he was like, all right, cool.
It's kind of a weird collection. It's a weird one, you know? It's kind of scattershot. I expected this to be much more cohesive and like cohesive in a way I didn't like. And although I didn't really like the album all that much, I just don't really know what to do with it.
I think it sort of falls into the same trap as like the inconsistency on changes in latitude, changes in attitude, where you have a couple tracks that are like so hegemonic, and you can tell on the album that they're so hegemonic because more attention has been paid into their performance by Jimmy than the other song, right? Like it's just one of those things where it's like it's the big couple songs and then like really one or two songs that like maybe Jimmy actually put some effort into earnestly, and then the rest are just kind of, you know, half-assed.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, for me, I feel like the A-side is a little bit stronger than the B-side, which is insane because the A-side has Volcano on it. But
and Chanson.
I don't hate Chanson as much as you do. We've established this.
Yeah.
But
I can't stand by it.
I guess like now that I look at it, the only two songs that I think are like actually like pretty good on the A-side are Treat Her Like a Lady and Stranded on a Sandbar. I don't even think
what
Chanson
I would
is
say.
like. Yeah, I guess the B-side is stronger. I don't know.
I'm not trying to argue either way. It's like changes for me. I'm not gonna. I cannot make a decision between what side's stronger than the other.
Yeah, what I have to say about this is that the songs I like on this album I only kind of like, and the songs I hate on this album I really hate, and that's just kind of the core of it. It's I don't think it's great. I don't think it's even like one of his like. I wouldn't put it in like the top half of albums. I don't think it's the worst album. I think it's a little bit better than Changes.
Unfortunately, I would have to agree. I hate doing that to an album that has Volcano on it, but I do have to agree. I think it's better than Changes, and I don't really want to say that Son of a Sailor is better than it, but I think Son of a Sailor is better than it.
Yeah, Son of a Sailor at least has like, I think the highs on Son of a Sailor is just higher, right?
Higher highs.
It's got Last Line and Coast of Marseille on it.
Yeah.
You know? Now, granted, it does have Cheeseburger in Paradise, but like, if Cheeseburger in Paradise was enough to sink the album, then it's like, well, you know, this has Volcano.
Talia, how did you feel about the album in general?
I think honestly what sucks is that for a lot of the albums that you guys have gone over, a lot of the albums that I've listened to, there's been at least one or two songs that I've been like, I would genuinely be like, hey, did you know that this was a Jimmy Buffett song? I didn't know that. It's not perfect. It's not like adding to my playlist, but it's cool. And I think that the only time I would want to show somebody a song from Volcano is to be like, hey, did you hear that really fucking bad Jimmy Buffett song? And that sucks because it has the best cover art so far. And you can debate me on that. The only argument I have against it, or the only argument I have for it, is that I like the way that I like the colors.
It is well painted.
Yeah. It's just most of these songs are just kind of, if they're not forgettable, they're background music at best.
And sometimes when they're not forgettable, they're like actively bad.
Yeah, you know, like actively like I don't know, Chanson.
I guess we should probably move on to some reviews now, huh?
Yeah, I have here the Rolling Stone review for Volcano with the headline "Not Hot." So this person likes the album less than I guess Chet Flippo did. It opens, one thing you could say about Jimmy Buffett: for a guy who spends half his time rock and rolling and the other half lounging around Caribbean beaches, he's not an arrogant son of a bitch. A bit complacent, since he's content to slurp a dreamsicle while rhyming Learjets with bassinets. So it's not a very like positive album. One thing about this review that I think is wrong, and you two will certainly think is wrong, is it says the best thing about it is Chanson pour le petit enfant.
Yep. Oh, God.
That's a fucking lie. That's an absolute lie.
The best thing on it. But he says that as far as Jimmy's concerned, we've heard better comic kickers than Finn's, better eulogies for sailors than Sending the Old Man Home, better love songs than Lady I Can't Explain, and I doubt whether we need to hear Jimmy Buffett ape Barry Manilow like he doesn't survive. This is...
Yeah.
Ugh. Basically that leaves the title tune and treat her like a lady to carry this fairly nice but unconventional LP. I don't think Volcano.
They did not mention Stranded on a Sandbar at all.
No, they mentioned Stranded on a Sandbar earlier, and it says as Stranded on a Sandbar. Let's see here. He seems to be generally kind of positive on it, but the point is this ends. Buffett's album, unlike the Volcano and Montserrat where it was recorded, is never in danger of erupting, and more's the pity. I've seen a lot of albums, a lot of reviews of this. That's the one I pulled, but I saw a couple of different reviews that say like this is the best thing about it, or this is like the one listenable song on this album, and they all pick different songs. You know, I've seen some that said Survive. Saw one that said Stranded on a Sandbar. I saw several that listed it as Volcano, which I think is just dead wrong. And obviously that one picks out Chanson, which I think is, you know, I don't hate that song like you guys do. It's far from the best song on the album.
Would you like to hear what your old pal Head Parrot had thought about the album?
My fucking nemesis, yeah.
Well, save your threats till after we're done here, because they will intensify with every sentence. So on June 9, 2000, and a little bit of context, the Soufriere Hills volcano is currently erupting at the time that the review is being made, because he makes reference to it. Recorded at Air Studios, it's AIR, not Air, but he wrote Air Studios, on the island of Montserrat, yes, the one with the spewing volcano. This album has its day in the sun. It was also the second album by any artist to be recorded at that studio. I don't know if that's certain for a fact. It's definitely one of the first. With all the power on Volcano, it's a wonder that it didn't get a warmer reception, which I find particularly ironic given the review you just listed. Most official critics didn't like it, and many fans didn't like the different sound compared to his earlier works. But then how many artists have always stayed on the straight and narrow? Fins is one of the best tracks for audience participation, and Volcano rivals Fins for the position of hottest track on the disc. Treat Her Like a Lady, Sending the Old Man Home, and Survive are all great ballads that deserve more time in the concert rotation. Now here's the sentence I think is really going to tick you off. Stranded on a Sandbar picks up where Cowboy in the Jungle leaves off. And Lady I Can't Explain is another song you can file in the Buffett butt shaker bin. 3 capital B's. The early days seem to come out in Dreamsicle, and Chanson pour les petits enfants, or Song for the Little Children, is a song that should be played to your own children before they go to bed each night. Score 5 out of 5 Coronas.
Yeah, that's a big shocker. That doesn't make me angry the way the last one did, but I do think he's wrong.
Just the idea of playing Chanson to your kids every night. That's just unconscionable. Like arrest
night?
this man. This man should not have children.
Every night? No. Like,
oh boy.
No. We talked about earlier in this episode how every night I was trying to sleep with Rockabye Sweet Baby James.
Yeah.
And when I got older, I would fall asleep to Horse with No Name by America, which I don't think is a great song, but it's better than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things better than Chanson. Okay, so, boat drinks.
Right. Boat drinks. I think I got boat drink fever. Beatrice, I drank 6 more boat drinks. 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 Somebody sound the alarm.
Is this a drink happy album?
We have 3 drinks.
Are they all rum?
No, actually, which is surprising. Tom, would you be surprised to hear that the first in any of these is a mention of rum, and it's mentioned in Volcano?
No.
Yeah, so yeah,
we got a mention. One I can pick out.
We got a mention of rum in Volcano. We've got a mention of wine in Chanson. We have an honorable mention in Chanson as well because there's tea, non-alcoholic, but it is an honorable mention because it's non-alcoholic. And then in Survive, champagne is mentioned, so that's another one for wine. And then of course a big honorable mention to boat drinks itself for being the segment namer. There's not an alcoholic beverage actually specifically named, and I presume a boat drink must be some sort of tropical beverage cocktail, but they didn't name a specific one. Not named specifically. If he comes back on some sort of future album like he did with Grapefruit, Juicy Fruit, and Fun Ass, like a Purple Passion or whatever the fuck, then I'll put it on. But here's our running total. We had 12 mentions of wine, 10 mentions of beer. It's nice to see those at the top because unfortunately number 3 with now quite a lead, rum with 8 mentions. Then we have whiskey with 5 mentions. 4 cocktails comprising 1 Bloody Mary, 1 margarita, 1 Havana, and 1 daiquiri. 2 tequilas, 1 gin, and 1 scotch. And that's it for boat drinks this week.
So the plan is at the end of this, you're gonna mix a shot of each, have as many times as they're mentioned, as specific as possible.
Nope,
some sort of
Mix
no,
it
not at
together
all.
and chug
Are
the
you
entire
suggesting we do
thing.
like a weird suicide by Jimmy? Like, what are you talking about?
Okay,
Like,
look, I'm just gonna say,
Suicide by
actually,
Jimmy is
if we really have a bad time the rest of this year and we decide to make a suicide pact, I mean, I think that's the way to go out. Then, Tom.
I'm not gonna do that. I got too much to live for, and Jimmy can't take that away from me. I say that now.
Yeah,
Let's
you
talk
got to
about-
keep the option open. But yes, let's get on.
Yeah. Steel Drum Watch.
He went to Jimmy, looking for steel drums, bothering him so. Well, steel drum killed his lady, left him with only one question. Which way do I steer for my steel drums?
Folks, this is a weird album because it doesn't feel like any of the instrumentation is super egregious, but the tropical instrumentation is back in a big way.
It's
You know, we
very
talked about-
contemporary, a lot of the instrumentation. With the Fender Rhodes
Yeah.
specifically, I was in the way the guitar is being played.
But yeah, you mentioned it at the top. We got honest to God steel drums finally. I know I've made several misidentifications, but we have steel drums. We've got a banjo ook on it. There's congas are back. Congas are back, baby.
Yeah, shakers.
Yeah, the shakers. It really just kind of feels like they took out the whole kitchen sink for Volcano specifically.
Yeah, I mean they got calypso singers in the background on that one.
Yeah, it's intense. But yeah, that's really it. It doesn't feel like an album where any of it is like super egregious, and I think it's because like a lot of it is like already tropical, I guess. So
Yeah.
it doesn't strike me as like weird.
Well, see,
But,
that's the
like,
thing.
it's here.
Is because I mean, and this is because like percussion is not always tropical, right? It's not always going to be exotica instrumentation the way it's used, but because because percussion, congas, and stuff have already become endemic to Jimmy's music for a number of albums now. I actually I notice them less.
Yeah.
So you have to listen to really get that at this point for us. Talia,
Surprise for you.
thank you very much for being here for our longest record ever.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited to do this, and this was really, really fun.
We knew that
You're
as
about to be more excited.
as our guest, we you have won a prize, and that prize is your prize for being a guest on our podcast is a free copy of this album on vinyl.
Kyle.
I knew you'd love it.
Kyle.
It cost me $1 at the record store, and it was worth it just for this reaction.
Is that why you told me I have to come see you tomorrow?
Whoa! I said I was gonna buy you lunch tomorrow. I'm doing you a kindness.
Is that an apology for giving this to me, Kyle?
The lunch, yeah, it can be an apology for giving this to you. I mean, look, you can burn the album if you want. You do whatever the fuck you want with it.
You know my fiance. He's gonna play this nonstop.
Do you guys have a record player?
We're bisexuals. Of course we have a record player.
Okay, all right.
Well,
Oh, fuck.
folks, that's going to be it for us here at this choreography. Wasting away
damn
2026.
Yeah,
Thank you, Talia, for being on. I've been Tom.
I'm Kyle. We'll see you guys next week for Coconut Telegraph from 1981.
Okay.
Play us out, Jimmy.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. And Margarita the bell. It's my own damn fault.